Good evening, everybody, and this is another weekly installment of Free to Heal. Thank you for joining us. I'm Noreen McClendon, your facilitator, moderator, host, whichever term suits you best. And tonight we had a wonderful discussion about communication, in particular, listening to understand is as opposed to listening to respond. In effective communication, we learn as we study it that if you're listening to respond, you're not really listening. And so we had a great discussion about that. There are a few things. There are a couple reasons why people listen to respond. One is they don't feel respected by the other person, or they don't respect the other person's opinion. There's also the idea that I need to get my point across. People who feel bullied or overpowered often will begin to cut someone off. Then there are the times when we're angry and we have our own idea about something, and one word can trigger a response in us, and we don't want to hear anything else. We don't hear the end of the sentence, the end of the conversation. All we hear is that word, and it sends us to someplace, and we're no longer listening. The problem with that is you can lose context. You can miss important pieces of information that, had you listened to the end, would have given you a different perspective on the situation. We talked about the fact that it's extremely important in emotional relationships where emotions run high, uh, in particular intimate partner relationships, familial relationships, that we listen, because we don't necessarily know what someone is feeling or thinking unless we actually listen to them and hear what they're saying. We may think we know, but the reality is we don't know until somebody tells us what it is that they're thinking. Another thing that's important is to understand, a gentleman talked about how he had been in foster care, and as a foster child going from home to home, he didn't believe that anybody cared about him at all. And so when people spoke to him, he didn't listen. He tuned out. If he heard one thing he didn't want to hear, he tuned out. That was based on something that he felt and believed about himself. It wasn't the people sharing things with him. One of the things that I share with him is, even a crazy person can tell you the truth or give you some valuable information. So it does all of us good to listen, even to people that we don't agree with, people that we don't necessarily believe have our best interests at heart. It doesn't mean that they're not telling the truth. And if we want to sustain ourselves, truth is the best way to do that. That is the foundation that we should stand on, because truth is neither hot nor cold. It just is what it is. It is the reality of what you're dealing with. So, with that being said, even in politics and religion, people say, I don't discuss politics or religion. Okay, I like to discuss them because I want to hear somebody else's opinion. Their beliefs, just because I listen to them, do not automatically disannul, cancel out, invalidate what I know and believe. But I may learn some new things. I may get more information about something. It may spark something that I need to know. So, listening is really important. The people who don't listen, they often just want to hear themselves talk. They tend to be narcissistic a lot of times. There's that crowd of folks, the narcissists, they don't listen to anything. They only hear themselves speaking on a continuing loop, because that's the only voice that is relevant to them. And the problem with that is, you don't know everything. None of us do. Nobody knows everything. Nobody has all of the information. Nobody's right 100% of the time. And you can't even make good decisions if you don't have all of the information. If you're only listening to half of the information that's being given to you, then you're making your decisions based on half. And then when you get those, they may be considered half decisions, okay? So it's important for us to listen, to understand, listen to gain perspective, because we talk about this often. I'm in a place right now where it's night, based on where I am in relationship to the equator and the sun. Somewhere in the world right now, it is daylight. If I'm speaking to a person on the phone and they tell me it's day, and I start arguing with them that it's night, both things are true. It is a matter of where I am and where they are in relationship to their revolution, to the revolution around the sun. So it's important to understand that your perspective may not be the perspective of the person that you're speaking to. An incarcerated person's children have a different version because they have experienced the incarcerated person's incarceration differently because they're the child. A loved one, a significant other, family members, cousins, aunts, and uncles experience a person's incarceration differently than the person that experiences incarceration. So, everything, we say this all the time, is about perspective. The other thing is, when you're listening to respond, you're making an assumption that you know what the other person is going to say. And that's not true. We know from the Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, don't make assumptions. Life is much more peaceful when you ask questions for clarification. But you can't do that if you're talking. You can't be listening if you're talking. And I would venture to say that society would be much better off if we did more listening than we do talking. We learn more, we can grow, we can prosper, and people can live in peace when we're listening to each other. Somebody made the comment, listening at each other as opposed to each other. So let's learn how to listen. Effective communication requires it. Great relationships require you to be able to listen to the other person and understand their perspective. And all of these things go into effective communication. Healthy relationships require communication from everybody. So it's up to all of us to listen, to understand, listen to hear. And I hope that you enjoy the conversation as much as I did tonight and get as much out of it as I did. As always, check us out on YouTube, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all the platforms. Leave us comments. By all means, please give us topics that you want us to discuss. This topic tonight came from a participant, and the conversation is always better when the conversation is driven by the participant. So we look forward to hearing from you. We're glad that you could join us tonight, and we hope to see you next week. And again, this is Noreen McClendon, and this is another installment of Free to Heal. Good night.
Good evening, everybody, and we are getting started tonight with Free to Heal, and I'm so glad to have all of us on here tonight. It's a rainy, cold kind of day in LA for us, so we're doing it primarily by Zoom, but I just wanted everybody to join in tonight. We're going to have a conversation about listening. And listening to listen, understand, gain some information versus listening to respond. Because oftentimes, and for a variety of reasons, people are listening so that they can have something to say. And there's another thing that goes with that, which is I listen, and the first time I hear the word, a trigger word, I assume I know what the end of your sentence is. I assume I know what the rest of your sentence is. And therefore, I know how to respond, and I totally tune out and I don't hear anything else that you say. Then there's also, I listen for that trigger word, and now I'm offended and I totally tune out. I go on a defensive. So one of the things that I've advocated for a long time is when you're listening, that you don't, listen all the way to the end, and that you recognize that you don't know what's coming at the end, because somebody may say something you've heard before, but it's literally only up to that point. And then they have something else that you never heard before. And one of the reasons that we do this is we're not really interested in hearing or understanding what's actually being said. We like to oftentimes give the appearance that we're communicating. And in reality, we're not interested in communicating at all. We're interested in getting somebody told. And so it's important when we are speaking to each other that we listen to hear and understand. One of the things that's comes up too is when you talk about assuming that you know what the end of the sentence is. We know what happens when we assume, right? We make an ass out of who and who. Okay. So what happens is when you think you know and you assume, you already dismiss the other person's point of view before they ever get to finish making their point of view. And when you tune out and start to respond, you miss the entire point. And so I want anybody, again, whenever you want, just jump in. Any instances where you've had it, any concerns you've had about this, by all means jump in and let's talk about it.
Yeah, Miss Lorraine Willie, that's a good topic, listening. Because when I was coming up and living in the foster homes, I didn't think
For some reason, Willie, you're going in and out, sweetie.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
I can, clear.
The phone is acting up. The phone is acting up. It's going off and on. Okay. So I'll talk later. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to continue because it's shutting off and then cutting back on.
Okay, but go ahead for as long as you can, sweetie. You were saying when you were young.
Okay. When I was young, living in foster care, I had a feeling that no one liked me because I was told everything all right. And so when people talked to me, I would tune out. I wouldn't want to hear what they had to say. So that gave me a bad understanding. And I grew up with that bad understanding for a long time until I got in my older years. Now I pay close attention to when people say things so I can understand it correctly and respond correctly.
That's very good, because let me tell you something. What you just said is, and I want you to hear all of what you just said, which is really important to me, is there was a belief that you had about yourself, that in that foster care, nobody liked you. Nobody cared about you. This is something that you thought in your head. So because of that, you automatically shut down anything that they were going to say. And it didn't mean, and listen, that's something important too, is that even if they didn't care about you, it didn't mean that what they were saying wasn't valid. It didn't mean, because you can get the truth from anybody. The truth can come from a crazy person. I've heard it come from too many crazy people to know that I know that literally. So even if they didn't care about you, literally they could have given you good information. One of the things I'm a big believer is listen and take out of it what I can use and throw away what I don't need and what doesn't apply to me and what doesn't work. Mm-hmm. So that was and thank you for sharing that. And anybody else?
Yeah, I got something to say. Can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I like the idea of what he just said, and and it took me a long time to get to that place where I listen for understanding, and now today I listen for understanding because I really want to know what the person is talking about, and I want to know, not only the context of what they're saying, but just truly the point of what they're trying to say or whatever. So I feel like I love communication, and the only way that you can get to know a person or know, what's on a person's mind or know where a person is coming from is to listen to them. You know what I mean? So I don't want to be the person to take things out of context and stuff like that. So right now it's important for me. So I like the fact that we speaking on this topic, but because it's just something that I'm like super into. You know what I mean? So I just appreciate it. So that's what
Wonderful.
I have to say about it.
Wonderful. And I will say this, you mentioned something really important, which is people taking things out of context. When you cut off the full conversation, you can put something in a box that causes you to go in a direction that the conversation never really had to go in. And next thing you know, you're having two separate conversations. It's two people on the phone and you're having two separate conversations. You are not talking about the same thing. And it's subtle, but it's like the communication goes beyond, you're missing each other. You're not really connecting because you're listening to respond, or you're not really engaged in the full conversation and getting the context of what's being said. So those are really, really valid points and interesting. Mr. Patrick, for some reason, I just want to hear what you got to say on the subject.
It's interesting that you should bring this up, because in my anger management class and in my psychology class in college, we're talking about communication and values and compromise. And if you don't listen to a whole subject or what somebody's saying, you may find out they do agree with you, or they're trying to understand what your values or goals are. And quite often, you've said it yourself, if you don't listen, you'll take something out of context. Compromise isn't always accepting somebody else's values or goals. Compromise is listening to a person and trying to understand what they just said.
Mm-hmm. That's good. And in any relationship, there's always going to be compromise. There's always a need for compromise in any relationship that you have. So it's really important to listen so that you know where you can compromise. You may have a situation going on, but do you even know where you can give, or where you can give a little or take a little, add a little, subtract a little from your position to make it work for everybody else? So that's really important, is understanding that compromise in any relationship is necessary, but you can't even do that if you don't even have the full context of the conversation. Awesome, wonderful things. What Miss Tony, what the dog got to say?
I'm compromising as we speak. He wants to go outside in the rain. I did want to say something in regards to that. Is I say that to my son. I've said it to other people in the midst of an argument or in an exchange, and I've said to them, you're listening to respond instead of listening to understand what it is that I'm trying to tell you or I'm trying to talk about. But one thing that I did want to say is, I don't know anyone who has never done that. I think that we've all done it. And as we grow, we begin to understand better boundaries in communication, and we try to pass that on to, our children, our nieces, nephews, and others when they're asking for advice and asking for other things. And I try to mirror to, my son, my daughter, anyone that I'm talking to. I remember being in a place where you are, and I thought I had all of the answers. And I've been there. I have listened just to make a response, to be defensive and so on and so forth, to get my point across instead of listening to understand. So take a step back and let me know when you're really ready to listen to understand. And then we can continue that conversation, because we've all been guilty of it at some point in time, and others continue to be guilty of it.
That is so true. We've all done it. There's none of us can claim that we haven't done that before. But one of the reasons I know for sure that I've done it is what you said, which is to get my point across. But I also know in trying to get my point across, it's oftentimes too having felt unheard and disrespected by the person that I'm talking to. So when I'm feeling, yeah, you know what I mean? Like when I feel like you disrespected me and you don't value what I'm saying, I'm going to try to keep talking until you allow me. Go ahead, Miss Roberta, because I see you shaking your head.
No, I'm just agreeing with you because that's seriously, because a lot of times, oh yeah. I agree.
Right? Yeah, because it's really, I feel
person that always think they're right.
And you know what? That'll tie into with something you shared with us before about the kind of controlling people.
Yeah, no,
right? And they definitely will go together.
And not compromising.
Right.
The narcissist.
Yes. And the controlling, the narcissistic people who they got the answer to everything. They're never wrong about anything. And if they are wrong, they're the victim. They wouldn't have done it unless you caused them to do it.
Right. And then you find yourself trying to defend yourself by trying to get it. So you cutting the person off, but not really meaning to. But you're like, no, let me finish. And then you can go.
So that it may be that, I hate to do this, you guys, but I think, let's see what he says. Mr. Tillman might be trying to get the link or something. But I have found, again, trying to get my point across when I feel disrespected. And another one is this happens a lot when we're discussing emotions. When we're discussing emotional issues, and when we're talking about our feelings and those things, and those are the places where we tend to want to be in control. We want to feel in control of our emotions. We want to shield ourselves from hurt and those kinds of things. And so we're always wanting to be in charge and in control of the situation. So what we do is we talk over people. Like I say, I know that has been a thing. And I want to say to the guys, when you come home, it's often been said that the emotional development gets stunted at whatever age you went into the penitentiary. It gets stunted at some level. And so understanding how to deal with people in their emotions, you really should listen all the way to the end, because if you don't know and you don't know is when you're more likely to create a mess. So it's really important. Go ahead, James. You wanted to say something?
Yeah. We know I had my share of toxic relationships, and it was always one person not listening to the other one. And when you get in these relationships, I'm talking to the fellas just come home, you get in these relationships, you try to fix them because that's what we used to doing, especially in the penitentiary. If you listen to your mate, a lot of times the relationship's not toxic. It's lack of listening and lack of understanding. I had to apologize to someone because I didn't listen to what she was telling me all along. I listen now and I hear, but it's not a problem no more because me and that person, we good. But the thing is, with any relationship, whether it be with family, friends, girlfriend, grandkids, kids, the biggest thing in that is and we learned this when we was in them groups, was you have to listen. And a lot of times we have to remember, we went through the groups. Our families and friends and society have not been through the groups, so we can't expect them to be on the same page we on. That's where we get lost at. And they'll tell you in a minute, don't be trying to give me that penitentiary mumbo jumbo, but it's not. What it is what made us, what made me a better person to come out and sit here and listen to what you got to say, because what you're saying may seem like it's the world to you, but to me it's frivolous. You already got the answer. So for me, I tell people all the time, I understand that you haven't been through the rehab I've been through. I understand that you're not on the page that I'm on. I'm not expecting you to be. But just understand that I'm not where I was when I went to the penitentiary.
Wow.
And that's what I tell a lot of brothers when they get in these relationships with these women, because these women have not been through all the groups you've been through to be the man that you are today.
I am having a terrible something just happened, and all of a sudden I can't see anything or anybody. I can hear you speaking, but I can't see anything. I may have to log out and log back in, you guys.
All right, you want us to log back in?
No, I may have to just do it myself. Let me see what happens. You guys can hear me though?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh wow. You can see me and hear me, huh?
Yeah, you're there.
Yeah, we see you and hear you fine.
Wow. Yep. Okay, so let me see what happens. Maybe
that might be the storm.
Maybe if I just launch it again, it'll come back up. Let me see.
Check one of your buttons, your camera buttons or something.
Yeah, because it just totally went off the screen. But in any event, as long as you guys can see and hear me, we can keep the conversation going. I'll figure this out in a second. And
yeah, we can hear you fine and see you fine.
Okay, wonderful. James, you said something I think that's important, and that is when you're talking about relationships, you were not listening to what the person was saying about how they felt. You didn't, and what it did caused is for you to miss the whole point. And so the relationship became toxic because you weren't listening. And we do that to each other often. Because like Tony said, I don't know of anybody who hasn't done that before. I don't know of anybody who hasn't done it. So that is a very relevant thing, is to pay attention so that because you didn't intentionally make it toxic. It became toxic though, because you were not paying attention. Oh, wait, look, you're back. Okay. All right, here we are. I don't know what happened. Yay, Jerry! Yeah, but it really does matter when you're trying to have a relationship with someone, particularly an intimate or emotional relationship, or any relationship where emotions are involved. If we're not giving each other time to speak, people will become resentful. They'll become resentful because you're not hearing me, and I'm not getting the opportunity to say the things that I need to say. Or you only hear part of what I'm saying and you think you know the rest, but you don't. And then you make the assumptions again about that. There's that assumption again about what you think I'm saying, and you're not getting any feedback. So it's really important to pay attention to what's actually being said versus what we think is being said. Okay. Because we, I hear, if people talk a lot now about quote unquote subliminals. Yeah, they was on Facebook shooting subliminals and whatever, so, oh yeah, you shooting me some subliminal. Okay, listen, if they didn't say it, don't assume, don't put nothing on it or nothing. And by you assuming what you're assuming, you're giving them the benefit of what they might have wanted you to get. And I see your hand, Di. You want to say something? Go ahead and unmute. Di. I can't see you, so I can only see that you got your hand up.
Well, I'll chime in and say, there's many instances where you can hear a friend or a family member that may have that toxic trait who says, you see what so-and-so posted? I know they was talking about me. You have no idea, that they were talking about you, and or oftentimes you're guilty about something. It's like I've said before about going to church. You stay away from church, and then you go into church and you swear the preacher was talking to you that entire time. I remember, not going to church for an extended period, and when I walked in there, every time the pastor started speaking, I swear he was talking to me. So yeah, that's subliminal. You swear that he scripted that whole, that whole sermon. I swore he scripted that whole sermon for me, but it could be for anybody, so that happens a lot.
And then like he knew you was going to show up at church that day, and he said, oh, Tony's going to come to church today, and I might as well, get Tony told.
Yeah, he looked at me the entire, I swore he was looking at me the entire time.
And chances are he didn't pay you no mind.
I was guilty. I was guilty, but yeah, that guilty person will swear that message was for them.
Well, now let's unpack that a little bit too. That guilty thought, right? So again, that leads back to something Mr. Stephan said, which is about believing whatever we believe about ourselves, right? And we're actually projecting that onto the person that's speaking, and then we make this decision that what they're saying is not valid, or what they said was about me, and all of those kinds of things, and we become defensive and aggressive with somebody, when in reality they're not thinking about you at all. A lot of times they're thinking about themselves and what's going on with them or somebody else, and it just so happens that the shoe fits, right? Or it could be stretched a little bit with a little shoe stretcher, and it will fit you. You know what I'm saying? Right? Take it to the shoe man and let him stretch it a little bit. Miss Di, did you want to say something, sweetie?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like when my niece calls, she likes to talk about, like, my grandmother, my mother, and all the people she really didn't get a chance to be around as much. And me trying to explain stuff to her, and then her having her own conversation, like with my brother, for instance, and she's asking me a question. I'm like, no, that's not true. But my dad said, okay, listen, if you're gonna call and ask me, listen to what I'm trying to explain to you, baby. That's all I'm trying to do, is explain it to you the best way I can. And know what my brother told you was not true. I don't know where he got that from, but that's not true. But she's always ready to defend the conversation and not even listen to what I'm trying to explain to her.
Yeah, that's go ahead, Tony.
I was gonna say, maybe you lead off with, that, everyone has their own opinion, or everyone has their own take on how something happened or how something occurred. And people don't necessarily always agree, but when you come and you ask me for my opinion, I just had this conversation with one of my cousins, and I'm the oldest of 26 grandchildren, and sometimes they're waiting for my opinion, whether or not they agree with it. And my cousin, was saying, well, my mom said, such and such on this particular topic. And I told her, let me just be real frank with you, because you guys already know how I am. Opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one, but they don't want to look at the next person's. I'm giving you my opinion on the situation because you asked me for it. I didn't ask you for your mother's opinion. I'm giving you mine. So take what I'm giving you in the moment, and then you can go Diane, you can go back to your dad and you can ask your dad from his perspective. I'm telling you from my perspective, and that's how I entertain it, because you can't go, what I hear in your voice is frustration, and you're going to continue to be frustrated until you put your niece in that place and let her know. You keep asking me for my opinion. First of all, I need you to shut up and listen. Listen to what I'm saying. Listen to understand what I'm saying. Instead of listen, you get 3/4 of the sentence and you're ready to respond. And then if you want to
yeah, that's what I told her. I said, first of all, I only can tell you from my point of view. I only can tell you from my recollection. I can't tell you from his. I'm only can speak it for myself. That's why I tell her this. I say all of the right words. Is just that she's always ready to come in. And I'd be like, Coco, you have to listen, baby, because if you're not listening to what I'm saying, that means you didn't listen to what he said. You coming to me with pieces now. Now we both all messed up. Everybody's lost now. Mm-hmm. What you need to do is just listen. She don't know how to listen at all. When we was in Vegas together, the whole time we was there, I'm telling her, okay, Coco, this is the plan. We're going to do A, B, C, and D. And about 9 o'clock, we're going to go to your dad's house. She come right in there, 7:45. Okay, so what time we leaving? I said, Coco, I already told you everything we was doing. How you forget that fast? Uh-huh. She just don't like to listen.
It's a couple of things that just came up, and one of it is the point of view. So we've talked about this before, where a person's point of view depends on where they are in relationship to the situation. So as a parent, I may have one perspective. As the child, I have a different perspective. Right. I look at it differently because I received it differently based on my understanding, based on my emotional development, based on what I understand, what limited understanding I might have. So, for example, your niece may be listening to somebody else and come to you for clarity, but then not really willing to get the clarity. But part of it is because of their perspective on where they sit in relationship to it. Right now, the sun is going down here. Somewhere in the world, the sun is coming up. And we can get on a phone call and I could say, it's nighttime here. And they say, no, it's daytime. And it is truly day for them and night for me in 2 different time zones. Right. And both things are accurate, but it's where you sit and how you view and your perspective on the particular situation. Oftentimes we don't have the information, but I can tell you one of the most frustrating things in the world to me is for somebody to call me. And I have people that do this often. They call me and they want to ask me, how should I handle this? Hey, what would you do in this situation? And then they, number one, will tell me, well, no, that's not going to work.
Right, but you called me.
Why you call me and ask me then? If you don't really value my opinion, why you bother to call me and ask me? Or another frustration is when you call me and you ask me stuff about the same thing over and over again, and then you don't do nothing that we talked about. And I'm talking about the people who agree with you when you on the phone.
Right.
Agree with you. Oh, no, you know what? That's right. You right about that. That's a good way to handle that. And then they go and do the exact opposite. But I just noticed that we got Mr. Terrell is in the house.
Hey,
welcome. Hey, you talk to us. What's going on with you?
I'm blessed. I just came from South Park, doing a demonstration with the teenagers up there, with a friend of mine. She has a program and she's doing programs with the kids at South Park on Tuesday. So I just went over there with her and did a thing about bullying and stuff like that.
Oh, you said bullying.
So good evening. Yeah, I hit the topic of bullying.
So you're not gonna bully us today? You should have been on here early because I think it was some lightweight bullying stuff was going on. I think you know what I'm saying. I think, and I checked in tonight. We had some people bullying somebody. I don't know, but
it was going down.
Good evening, everybody. Sorry for my tardiness.
It's okay.
I was, tending to some other things with the shorties, with the little 15 and 14-year-olds. But how everybody doing?
I'm fine. It's been good.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Everybody that has a book, has anybody started reading it yet? Or just collecting dust, just sitting somewhere?
I have.
I'm not gonna say I started and I stopped.
Well, that's true too. I mean, that's true. I mean, I started and stopped too, but I did start.
Okay, so for any of the
I
reentry,
started Big Bro, and I started school, so I had to sit it down for a minute, but I'm planning on going back to it.
okay. I just want to know because it's a lot of information in there that you can utilize on a daily basis, and I didn't want to just make sure you guys had the book just to have it. It's not for decoration. It's to help you.
Mm-hmm.
It's to help you in every aspect of your life and the things you might be going through personally. It's not a memoir. That book is not about my life per se. It has experiences from my life, but that book is an educational book to help you grow and understand from the inside to everything that's going on in society. And that's why it's called Formula for Success, because it's not my formula, it's your formula. It would matter. And the book just brings out information and make you think about where you're at and what you need, and gives you some insight on things that you might run into while you're out here. So it's not just a book, oh, you're just gonna read about my life. No, it's a book that I wrote to educate you, to help you navigate out here in the world. And it's vital because it's not only for people coming out of prison, like I said, it's also for people who will never be to prison, because it's an everyday life type of thing. It's just not for just one day or 1 week. It's for every day.
And you know what?
So,
and let me say this, Brother Terrell, is that it's one of the reasons why I suggested to you that maybe once a month you might pick one of your topics and come on and go ahead and I'm gonna let you facilitate and bring that information. Free to Heal. That's why we have not just people who've been incarcerated, but loved ones, children of formerly incarcerated people, because everybody has a different experience. Just what I was just saying a minute ago, as a person who was incarcerated versus a loved one versus the child of someone incarcerated, all of those things. It's a different perspective based on the same set of circumstances, right? So how we view it, how we function in it is going to be different, because our perspective and how it affected us is going to be different.
Yes, indeed.
But I definitely want you to consider, as like I said, coming at least once a month, maybe once every 6 weeks, pick a topic, let's go through it, let's chop it up, because I understand information, this is the information age, they call it, right? We're in that information age.
Yes.
Information is knowledge, knowledge is power. And when there's a specific circumstance that we're going through or people go through, it's really important for us to have information. We can't even make good decisions if we don't have good information. Okay, so I'm gonna give you an example.
Right.
I can't answer a person's question about almost anything unless I have all the information, or I'm likely to make a poor decision because I don't have all the information.
Yeah.
And guess what? In the topic that we're talking about, think about it from that perspective too. If you're in a conversation and you're trying to have a conversation about something and communicate with someone, and they ask you a question, but you don't have all the information, how can you truly communicate or give them the right answer or the appropriate answer for you if you don't even have all the information, because you cut them off and you stop listening midway through their sentence because you didn't get all the information, or you didn't ask enough questions to have all the information to get what it is that you needed. Because that's our topic tonight, is listening to understand, Terrell, versus just listening to have a response. And you talked about a variety of reasons why that happens and circumstances under which that is the case. And what I want to do is let's see, Mr. Hall, you haven't had nothing to talk to me tonight. Talk to me. What's your take?
I believe it's a very good conversation, because this is about communication.
I can only see the top of your head. I see you.
I said I believe it's a very good conversation because this is about communication, and it's about effective communication. Mm-hmm. And the part about listening, that's important in it, because like you said, if you're not listening to the person, you're not going to be able to answer the person. You're not going to be able to understand what the person is trying to tell you. So that's a very important part in it. You mentioned something about a lot of guys, like when they go to jail, they like be stuck mentally, you know, at a certain age. And like I did some time earlier, and that was true. I was stuck like where I had went to jail at. But this time, something that James said, a lot of us, like a lot of the lifers, we went through a lot of those self-help groups. So that has helped us. It helped us to become emotionally mature. It has helped us to be more understanding. It has helped us with our patience. It has helped us with our tolerance. And so we've been able to be more effective in our communication. The thing that's kind of surprising to me, at least in my experience, is a lot of the women that I've been interacting with, they're not emotionally mature. You know, they have issues. And so it's kind of like it's really been testing me in being more patient, being more understanding, and being more tolerant. So this is a very
it goes
good,
back to what James said. It goes back to what James said, is that y'all went through the groups and the people on the outside didn't go through all the groups. They haven't delved into their stuff. You know what I mean? They haven't delved into their immaturity. And it's on that emotional growth is where it gets is specifically not just mentally, but emotionally. And and also when people go into incarceration young, there's a lack of experience. Right. So, and I'll say this: we've had this conversation multiple times too, which is it's all in the selection process. So if you running into the same kind of, you find yourself in the same kind of situation, I want you to start going somewhere else to make some selections, baby.
Right. Better people.
Yeah, we gotta get somewhere else. We gotta go look. If you keep going to that same barrel right there,
they be looking like they got it. Hey, they be looking like they got it all together until you start talking to them.
And then it's like, whoa, wait. It's like Eddie Murphy say, I thought this was a Ritz. It's a saltine. It's that same old saltine. It looked like a Ritz initially, but it's really not a Ritz. It's still another old saltine. And then this one, he's like going to be stale. Because you know a saltine ain't all that advertising no have, but when it's stale, it's really bad. That's like cardboard. You know what I'm saying? It's like cardboard. See, that's why I like when all of you guys talk, because we get more things added into the conversation. And that's a really important point, is the selection process. Selection not just with intimate partners, but also just your friends in the circle of people you choose to hang with. All of that matters. All of that matters. And you know, somebody said if you look at your life, look at the 5 people that you spend the most time with, and you'll see yourself as a reflection of them. Hey Tony, what you doing with that thing? What's that? You know, Tony,
wait a minute.
What is that? Unmute Miss Tony.
What is going on here?
What's happening?
I'm threatening the dog. Come here.
Okay.
Mr. Hall and Mr. Hall.
Yeah.
Can I say something, Maureen?
Absolutely.
And one thing that we must understand when we're coming home from prison, people, when you're dealing with a woman or the opposite sex and you come home from prison, they don't know what you have been doing in prison. And, you know, if you've been going to the self-help groups, or you've been reading self-help books, so they don't know. And like Ms. Noreen just pointed out, majority of people out here in the world, they ain't going to self-help groups. They ain't reading self-help books. Everybody in society ain't trying to better themselves. So when you run into a young lady that looks the part and you start getting up into that noggin and that mental aspect of it, and you see that she just think, oh, you just came out of jail. You don't know nothing. You don't know nothing. You just came out of jail. Then it's up to you to educate her to your knowledge, to the best of your knowledge, but to stay on a mature level. And if you can't educate her to have some understanding of you know how to be a little more mature and not to disrespect you and downplay you because you've been in prison, then you'll see that woman is not for you.
Right.
You know
It's
what I
time
mean?
to move
It's
on.
like you said, it's time to move on. But
Right.
that's the case in a lot of people in society, even people who have been to prison priorly. You know what I mean? So just because somebody been in prison don't mean that they out here doing the right thing. You know, I have an understanding, because just like the world changes, prison changes too. And a lot of people didn't have self-help groups in prison. A lot of people didn't have reentry programs out. Because when I came out of 02, it was no reentry program. It wasn't even called reentry. You were just on parole, supervised release, or whatever, and you had a whatever. Now it's reentry, and there are a lot of different programs out here that you have to take advantage of. And so just be understanding and be diversified in your thinking to know that everybody don't know what you know and what you've been through. And you will have the stereotypic people that, oh, you came from prison, you don't know nothing. Don't take it, don't be offended. Just, like I say, educate them and then move on. If they don't want to if they don't want to grasp who you are and what you know, and they still immature, move on, brother, because them is caution flags, and they can definitely turn into red flags.
Right. I'm gonna turn on a caution flag right here and say this. I'm gonna turn on the caution flag right here and add this into the conversation. You ready for this one, Mr. Hall?
Yeah.
And all of that need to happen before you take your pants down.
Hello. You're right though. No,
right?
you're right.
Because
you're
look,
absolutely right.
Once you start with the bumping and grinding and hanging from the chandelier and all that kind of stuff, all that get cloudy. And next thing you know, you're not paying attention to the fact that she not listening and she not sure and all of that, because now you're focusing on some other stuff. Okay.
Right.
When the intimacy come in play, it changes the whole dynamic. Emotional, it changes the whole dynamic. And they feel like, anybody feels like, okay, well, we doing it. So the hell with all that other stuff. We compatible like this.
Right. We's together now. We's together now. And you ain't even
you stuck with me. You stuck with me. You ain't going nowhere. For real.
We together. You's my man now.
And it goes both ways.
Oh my God.
It goes both ways. Because I know some women who are miserable with dudes that have come out of jail. They gave them some clothes. They fed them. They gave them some good old nookie. And now they ain't going nowhere. They like old puppy. You can't even throw it out on the freeway. It's going to find its way back home. And that's how it is. You know, so you got to have an understanding that this is how it is. So you got to be prepared and careful yourself, you know, and understand that when you get involved with somebody, it's one thing to just be talking, but when intimacy comes into place and them sexual and emotional tactics get in there, it's a whole different level.
Do you hear that, Mr. James?
Huh?
Mr. James, did you hear that?
Mr. James. Listen. If I ain't doing nothing else, I'm paying attention to what's being said. So what I have to say is, like I said earlier, I was in toxic situations. I let the little man think for the big man. So now I'm taking it slow. I'm concentrating on me, and I'm moving for me. You know what I'm saying? Everything right now is designed for me, and I've dedicated my next year to doing me. You know what I mean?
Who are you going to give thanks to for that, James?
Huh?
Who are you going to give thanks to for that?
You know, if you was listening, you'd have picked up earlier when I said I had to apologize.
I got a whole name, baby. I got a whole name, James.
That I had to apologize to somebody who's been talking to me and I wasn't listening. So now that I'm listening, I'm hearing and I'm paying attention. That's why a whole nother year is dedicated to me.
But let me say this. Hey, but James, I gotta cut you off and say this. See what you did? What you did is you tried to do it on the low.
Exactly.
But just man up and come straight out and give God her props for putting up with your stuff and giving you the advice that you needed. And so because you didn't do that, she missed it.
Yeah.
No, I didn't tell the whole story and tell the truth.
No, she caught what I said.
Yeah, but then she couldn't have called you out on it. But then she couldn't have called you out on it. If you heard it, die, why you playing? So to see you being messy.
No,
you being messy. If you caught it in the first place, why you being messy then?
Because I'm going to be like that because I didn't hear my whole name. Like I said, I didn't hear my whole name.
Okay.
I'm gonna keep it right. I didn't hear my whole name.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm gonna let y'all know, Sister Di.
Y'all go ahead and talk because I got something. I got to call.
Yeah, because I'm on the phone with this man every day with something.
Yeah.
She giving you a hard time, James? Diane giving you a hard time as usual?
Yeah,
No.
as usual.
Oh my goodness. No, I do not. I give him great advice every day.
After she done slapped me around a couple of times.
And I got her back.
See?
Thank you.
That's what I'm talking about right there.
That's my people. That's my people.
I got Tony back.
You know, I'm punching everybody in the throat.
We ain't scared of you, baby.
And for the gentlemen on here, if you guys are not used to aggressive, assertive women, you might as well go back up in that cage. Because they are assertive, they're aggressive, and they will tell you what's on their mind. And you'll be like, damn, did she really just ask me that? Did she really just say that?
Yeah.
So
no, the thing
this is the world we live in now. This is the society we live in now.
I don't want you brothers to think that just because we came out the pen that we can set our own standards. We can't. We lost in the sauce because these women are smart, and we behind the 8 ball. You know.
Well,
so
I think
we just take our time.
Yeah, and James, I think it goes back to, having the men gone and having to be in that place where you have to step up and you have to do things. If we are in this place together because we are both, filling those needs and filling those voids. I don't want to get on the ladder and change a light bulb in my house, if my son is not here. I don't want to pull the ladder out and pull the palm trees down or what have you, but either I have to pay somebody to do that or I have to do it myself. And you get to a place as a single woman that you get tired of dishing out money to every contractor, every repairman or what have you, and you learn out of the necessity to do things yourself. And I think with that comes that other layer of independence. And, we thrust it upon men, especially if it's a man that has been incarcerated. We may thrust that because, again, I go back to what we talked about in previous discussions about the child. These behaviors that I had were behaviors I was taught from society. Oh, your mother or your uncles go to jail. They're not going to amount to anything. They're not going to do anything. They're not going to be anything. Now that I know better, if I was thinking that way for 40 years, I'm 56. So I've only had 16 years to try to balance that beam. And so we are in that struggle together with you, because society also tells us not only about our parents, but they tell us about our partners. And if I have a partner that was incarcerated, because I went to school, because I got a degree, because I worked in HR, because I worked in corporate America, I'm already better than that person. When in fact, people are just people. I know that was ingrained in me, but it is what society still pressed upon me that caused that conflict and that friction with my mom, that can also, if I continue down that path, cause that conflict and confliction with my partner, especially for someone who has been incarcerated. You have to go back and peel back your own onion to move away that stanky layer of bullshit that you've been given about people who were or are incarcerated. We all know incarcerated people who are gems, who are smart, who are articulate, who are intelligent, who made mistakes, but we also learned that they're not that mistake does not define them forever, but it is a continuous process. And to Mr. Hall, you had that ability to have that self-help group and have that that group there, whereas I did not. I had to counsel myself, because out here, nobody was telling us that we needed to go get help. They were telling us because we didn't go to the penitentiary, we were fine. Does that make sense? Mute.
Yeah, that make a lot of sense. Yeah. It's, so for me, it's just, I'm learning from them, and hopefully they learning from me. It's a process, and what I'm getting out of it, you just got to take your time. You can't rush into stuff, and listening to the other person is very important, because that's how you're going to learn about them. That's how you're going to learn what they're about, and how they feel about this or how they feel about that. Yeah.
Noreen, you're on mute. You're on mute.
That is so important, and I'm hoping that you understand how important what you just said is, which is listening to someone is how you're going to learn about them. There is no shortcut. There's no quick, fast, dirty way. There's no list you can check off that's going to tell you whether or not this is the person for you or find out who this person is. The only way you're going to find that out is by putting in the time, investing the time to find out who they are. It is also true even in friendships. Okay, you got to put in the time and the energy to find out who people are, and that is what is going to tell you how much to invest in them, and it'll also tell you, you'll get to see how much they're willing to invest in you. Okay, because I told you guys, when I start treating myself like a business, hey, how much are you investing in me before you start making calls from over here? Okay, because I need to know what you putting in before I can start giving a whole bunch of stuff. So I want to go around. I want to start with you, Mr. Steffens, and ask you to check out any final observations, comments on the topic.
Yes, words have boundaries. Boundaries has perspectives. Perspective has to listen, and listen has growth to give you understanding.
My guy, this is why I always hang out with you, Mr. Steffens. See, that's that kind of stuff right there. See that kind of stuff right there. That kind of stuff right there, player. That's why I hangs out with you. That's why I'm feeling you. I'm feeling you. Thank you. Yes. Appreciate you. I want to, Mr. Kittredge. Can you unmute it and holler at me? What you get out tonight? Kit? Did you fall asleep over there? I know you were sick.
Did you unmute?
You unmuted, baby. You did
okay.
it.
Okay.
Did you leave?
What I got out tonight?
Oh, your cousin just pulled up?
The most important part what I got out tonight was listening to that sister when she just got through speaking, and about the things she had to do, and about how she didn't have to pay people to do her work for her. So she started doing it herself. And that empowered her. Mm-hmm. And that made her more self-efficient. And I noticed women that do everything for themselves, they are much stronger women. No matter how you look at it. They get to the point where I don't need a man to do this for me no more. I don't need a man to do this for me no more. All I need a man for is companionship. And anything else after that there is a bonus. But you have to remember, I've been a man for so long. I've been a male chauvinist. I'm supposed to be able to go do these things for you and be happy that I'm doing it for you. And it bothers me when I have to see my partner doing stuff that a man should be doing. Move out the way and let me do what I'm supposed to do.
And we've had this conversation before, Kid, is what happens is based on the experiences that Tony talked about, is that it causes us, we get in survival mode because we don't have a choice. We're thrust into that position. And it is very difficult, I can say, as a very independent, self-sufficient woman, that it's difficult for men to see me as needing anything. And when they don't think I need anything, they don't feel the need to protect me or take care of me. And so it's very difficult. There's a plus and a minus to having to do everything for ourselves. and to become independent in that way. There are definitely pluses and minuses to that, but I'm glad that you that you got something out of it. And I'm glad that you have joined us this evening, sir. And I surely hope that you feel better soon. I hope all that $40 worth of medication actually do some good, you know?
Well, at least it got me up talking.
That's a plus. We head in the right direction, baby. We head in the right direction. Mr. Terry, can you unmute and talk to me?
Hi, Noreen. Yeah, well, you women are very smart and intelligent. I give you for that. I learned as a growing up as a kid, my mother and dad always fought. My mom always told my dad, I'm going to work, and you think I'm going to stay in the house and just babysit these kids all the time? You got another thing coming. And now I heard this from my mom. She went to work for the Los Angeles paper company. My dad was a mechanic, and we had our own babysitter watching our kids. Actually, I grew up with them running the streets. But anyways, we have to listen to each other to have a good conversation and growth. If you don't have growth, you're not learning nothing from each other, because women want this and want that, and men want this and want that. So we have to share one another's intake, our feelings and emotions, because if you don't have anything, that you won't have a relationship. You'll drift apart, and you'll go your way and he'll go his way, because you're not listening to what she wants to say, and he doesn't want, or you don't want. It's a give and take situation. You got to be there for each other, and you got to be willing to listen to each other to have a good, solid, and honest and loving relationship. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. That's wonderful. And so let's say, Ms. Di, final thoughts from you, love.
Final thoughts for today for me was, I was glad to express this feeling and this conversation with everyone, because it's something that I've been thinking about. That's why I called and asked you, can we talk about this conversation and this opinion? I mean, this topic, because like I said, talking to people and people talking with people and they're ready to respond before they even listen to everything you have to say. In life, it happens every day because everybody is human. We're not robots. But I'm just glad we had this conversation. I was glad to hear everybody's input on it tonight.
And I'm so grateful that you brought up a topic. I just want to encourage everybody, please bring your topics. Please, on our check-ins, just, if it's something you're thinking about, something's going on with you, holler at us, let us chop it up and talk, because as you can see, we get a lot of good input from each other, and I learn as much as you guys do. And so I'm grateful for you guys bringing topics to us. So thanks for that. Miss Roberta, you got to unmute, babe.
I enjoyed the topic this evening, and I also want to say I am so proud to be a Black woman today, because we have evolved so much. Yeah. So power to the people.
No delay, mama, no delay. I know that's right.
I was about to give you the heartache.
Mr. Sandoval, check out for me.
The key, we talk about this almost every other week. Listen with people, not at or to people. And it's not compromise to see the other person's ideas or values. That doesn't mean you agree with them, but you have to understand them to at least talk with them. Talk with people, not at people.
Wonderful. It is such a valid thing. I think about it. It often comes up and people don't want to discuss religion and politics, right? But I'm often confused as to why not, because is whatever your spiritual belief system is, me listening to you explain what that is or your political view doesn't necessarily change what mine is. I'm not going to be harmed by listening to what you have to say. If my belief is firm and is built and is ingrained in me, whatever you're going through is what you're going through, and I can listen to you. And like you say, it doesn't mean that you change what I said. It doesn't lessen what I said. It doesn't mean any of those things. Any of those things. I'm just listening to what you say, and that is not going to harm me to listen to another point of view. So that's a great point, and I thank you for that. And you take care of yourself here, and you get better too, okay? And Mr. James, you wanna unmute, sweetie?
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Okay.
All right. I'm going down the freeway in this rain.
Okay.
Going to pick my medicine up. Y'all know I've been diagnosed with stage 2 liver failure. So I'm on a renal diet, and they're starting a new medication to try to get my liver to rejuvenate and build itself up to be back to where it's supposed to be. But every Tuesday, everybody around me know how special my Tuesdays are. And everyone know how important my brothers are and my sisters are coming home from prison, and those who've never been to prison but have family members that they supported in prison. And it's to me, it's a beautiful thing to know that we all still fighting for the same cause, and that's to be free from the bondage of not just our minds and our souls, but also ourselves. I've been battling a lot of things, heart problems, now liver problems, and it's all behind the COVID I caught in 2020 when I got out. I want all you brothers and sisters to stay strong, stay diligent, stay healthy, and stay loving oneself first. Love yourself, date yourself, know yourself before you can introduce yourself to somebody else's self, because you're dealing with another soul and your soul, and it's becoming to be one soul. So you don't want to intertwine your soul with a soul that's not worthy of holding hands with your soul. And with that, I say God bless, stay focused, and stay loving.
Wonderful. Thank you, sweetie. Miss LaTanya, any parting thoughts for you tonight, love?
My soul is fed. This is confirmation to me because the topic tonight is right where I'm at in my life. Effective listening and, just letting the person talk. And I have that so bad. If I don't like something, I'm gonna cut you off and the conversation just go left. So just take a minute, breathe, and just hear the person out.
That's awesome. See, that's wonderful. Again, this is why I'm so grateful for you guys when you guys bring the topic up, because it gives us an opportunity. You see, it's helping somebody else. But Tony, that's how it works when they going into church. See, LaTanya probably felt like, oh yeah, they was doing this for me. They was talking all about me, and Don was all about her. Okay, and she just make that assumption. Oh, they were talking to me, and we know nothing about what LaTanya talking about. Okay, that's awesome. Darius, can you unmute and check out for us?
Thank you. These conversations is like a lot of them, like I'll be having. I got an 8-year-old cousin that constantly bombards me with 1,000,001 questions, which is cool, but it's always a build up for something, and as far as like relationships, I'm learning how to have them kind of communications and stuff like that. So this was like beneficial to me, hearing everybody's advice, and I want to tell everybody thank you. But also, Miss Noreen, this is like going to be my last week with this group, because I got another group that goes on at this time that I really want to be a part of.
Okay.
So, thank you, everyone. This 3 weeks have been cool. The guy that just came on, I don't have your book, so I'm hopefully I can come across it. But I appreciate everybody and love everybody as well.
Thank you.
And I hope to see you soon,
Enjoy your
Miss Noreen.
party. Enjoy your party.
Oh, yeah.
Have a good time.
That's gonna be cool too. All right. Thank you.
Mr. Terrell, can you unmute? Any last comments for us, Mr. Terrell?
I will say I apologize again for my tardiness. And for the gentleman say he doesn't have my book, I can definitely get you one. Just, get my information from Noreen and we can make it happen. And just to say thank you, Ms. Noreen, for creating this platform. I know Di be cutting people off, don't be listening all the way through, but we still learning. But the topics is always on point, and the feedback is always good, and I learn something every time. And I like when Antoinette, she goes on her thing, because she gives me a point of view from women, the woman side, the woman who has learned that at a latter age of life, who has been conditioned to think a certain thing a certain way or to be a certain way. Now that she's learning, a whole different thought process is coming among herself, and she's spreading that information. And that's very important, because when we grow a certain level, we're ingratiated in our ways. Mm-hmm. But then when we get educated to know different and see different, we learn different and we move different. So it's very vital that she continue to spread that message that she does, and I appreciate that for her bow-legged self. And just thank you for having me on this platform. I'm grateful. And also, I just want to let everybody know that this month, March 25th, I'm going to be at the Black Writers on Tour in Carson, at the Carson Civic Center on May 25th from 9 to 3. So I will have a booth and shirts and hats and all that stuff. But for anybody that's on this live, this podcast that doesn't have a book and that want a book, just let Miss Noreen know, and we will make it happen, because this book is for everybody to get educated and have some insight on this journey of reentry and in life, period. Thank you, guys.
And I will also be at Black Writers on Tour at the Carson Center on March the 25th. And you can get copies of my book. I'm also going to have my workbook for Hurt People Highway, which is to help people go through, answer them some questions and things like that, to help them find and uncover their own strength, their own triggers, their own trauma, and help them to begin to heal from those things. And so I want to say we had a great conversation. I look forward to talking to you guys next week. And I want to thank each and every one of you from the bottom of my heart. Brother Terrell, I'm gonna need you to show me how to create that background like you got. You're such a marketing genius, and I need to get on that train with you, player. You know what I'm saying? I need to jump on that train.
And you know what? We are, this is networking. Maureen,
yes.
I networked with her. I found out about the book tour. I immediately, listen, man, they got the book tour. We need to be involved. Everybody I know that wrote books, it was a plug, you know what I mean? And now we got 4 people that's going to be side by side with our books and our booths combined. And we was even on a radio show this morning.
Sure
so, it's the power of networking. You don't know, it's great people out here in the world. So don't let people tell you everybody is fucked up, because everybody ain't. We might all been through some things, but there are still great people out here. And the majority of people that I surround myself with are new people in my life that are great fucking people, straight up.
Well, and the good news for me is I come from the old side. See, before we went back the second time. See, I'm from the OG. You know what I'm saying? I'm the OG. So I enjoy you guys every week, and we will get together next week. Everybody, James, please be safe out there on that road. Everybody take care of yourselves, and we'll talk to you next week. Good night.